Welcome to a new episode of the No Secret Sauce podcast. 1% better every day is today's guest's life philosophy. My guest today is Daz. Daz is someone I've known for the past few years and I've met while training BJJ. He is a passionate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner and he currently holds a blue belt. For those of you who don't know, blue belt in BJJ is the first belt that you get awarded after, on average, 2 years of consistent training. Despite a whole bunch of injuries, life challenges, and older age, Daz kept on showing up and trained to the best of his abilities. In today's episode, we will be talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a lot, and of course, Daz's journey into the sport. Daz is a proud father of three, a real-life warrior, and a truly inspirational figure. We will find out about him and his early life, how he got started into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and how he's still showing up and putting in the work. And now, for my discussion with Daz. It's one of the episodes that has been requested so much by previous guests.
Who?
I can't tell you who, but everyone before this moment has asked for you to come on a podcast.
Is that because I've got a face for radio?
I don't know. It seems like you've been through a lot. You've seen it all. You experienced it all. You are a guy that inspired, I think, many of us in the club. And here we are, the place where we met.
Home.
There's your spot where you did your first role in this club. There's where we do this interview today. Awesome. I'm honored to have you today.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here, mate.
Welcome on the show, man.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you. It's good to have you. It's been long waited for me to start this show and to obviously have you on.
Well, when you started talking about this, because obviously, as the oldest man in the club, you sit back and you watch.
Yeah.
And that is my title, isn't it? The oldest man in the club. And you see people progress different things, different speeds. Some people pick them up and put them down. And that's just the nature of life. You picked up something, not necessarily this, about 8-9 months ago. And it got under your skin and it was like self-development. And it was really, really good to see because I personally believe we should all strive to be what they call an EQH, an eminently qualified human being. Be 1% better every day, you know. And we can talk about the clone theory and everything else, but that whole being better. And I've watched you work at so many things, but stay true to your core beliefs. Yeah, and this is brilliant, you know, because only rich and famous people podcast, right? And here we are podcasting.
Rich and famous people podcast. That's
it's like Joe Rogan in Cobham.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I've always wanted to speak with inspirational people. I always like to have interesting chats, right? Mm-hmm. So I might as well document it all.
Yeah. So
I can look back when I'm, you know, when the times are gone, I can look back at it and think, yeah, I've done it all. I speak to all.
But this is here for infinity, isn't it? Until the world ends, at least.
Yeah.
You know, whenever that may be. Given the current situation in the Middle East and Europe, could be next week, you know? But, you know, so you're right, but everybody has a story. Everybody has something. Everybody. And, you know, when you look at where we are and who we train with and the people we're being essentially raised by within the club, there are so many interesting stories in this place that, you know, it's hard not to be inspired by the people we train with. It really is, you know.
Now, talking about stories, man, tell me, who is Daz? I want to know who is Daz, and I guess a lot of people that are going to listen to this want to know, who is Daz?
Good question. So, who am I? Right now, I'm a father. I'm a blue belt under Mark. I'm me. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. So, start with me. I was born in Birmingham back in the day when it was black and white, you know, big TVs and all that business. Come from a council estate in Birmingham. It's a little war zone. And when I was 6, I went to live with my nan. in a place called Small Heath. And I benefited from what they now call today a multicultural environment. There was 142 houses in our street, right? And they were what they call back-to-back houses. So these are old houses that have no back gardens. You build a house and you build another house onto the back of it. And it was where all the poor people were placed. But not only the poor people, we had the immigrants and we had people from Africa. If I give you like our street, the diaspora of our street, we had Afrikaans from South Africa. We had Sikhs, we had Hindus, we had Pakistanis, we had Indians. We had people from Afghanistan that fled the war from the Russians. We had an Irish family, and we'll talk about those in a second, because that was my first introduction to terrorism. Age 9. And it was a weird thing, because we were the only white family on the street, you know, and it didn't make any difference, because I never ate in the same house more than once a week. You know, I'd have dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Gelata and their family. We'd have dinner with Seamus and his family. We'd have dinner with Charles and his family. At dinner with Everton and his family. Charles was an Irish family. Seamus wasn't Irish. Seamus was from Bengal, but his father had served in the army and he was Irish, you know. And he'd come over and brought his kids over. And there was this little Indian man called Seamus. Never managed to get my head around it. Just didn't look right, bless him. You know, and I curried goat all the way through to traditional, you know, Pakistani cuisine every single day. My nan worked at a factory called, it was the BSA factory, the Birmingham Small Arms. Back in the war, they made rifles and guns and bullets and ammunition. But they started off making motorbikes. And I vividly remember being raised in this street that was, and this, we talk about the 70s, it wasn't that long ago, mate, stop laughing. It wasn't that long ago where it was still bombed from the Second World War. Birmingham Council had gone, well, there's nothing we can do with it. Jesus. You know, so we were playing on, you know, rubble string bomb sites, and it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. It was just an adventure.
At least someone sees a good thing in it.
But it was an absolute adventure. It really, really was. It was one of those upbringings where it's not like today. I mean, I've got 3 boys, but they're never going to be out on the street the way I was because of their disabilities. It doesn't work that way. But when I was growing up, I wasn't tied to the house because of an iPad or a PlayStation. And you just went out and, you know, you did literally, you know, you went out when it was at light and you came home when it was dark.
Yeah.
And that was it. My nan worked 2 jobs. So I was what they call a latchkey kid. I don't know if you've heard of that phrase.
Where I'm from is the key with the kid with the key around his neck.
Yeah, basically. So kind of latch. Yeah, and you let yourself in and out.
Yeah,
you know, you let yourself in and out. And it was funny because my nan was the eldest of 13, and I'll always remember this. So she was the eldest of 13, so she was head of the house, you know. Yeah. And I remember bathing in a tin bath in front of the fire, right? And all my aunts were here. So it was like 9 aunts. And I was like 8 or 9, and I wouldn't get out of the bath because they were all there and I was naked. You know, I'd be sitting there like that, waiting for them to, you know, leave. And then nobody ever left. The house was always full. But it was a different world, you know. That being said, some of us veer off on a path. And I happened to veer off on the path. And it got to the point where one day a magistrate said to me, you've got 2 choices. You can go to Borstal or you can join the army. I'd just seen the film Scum. I don't know if you've seen the film Scum.
No.
It's Ray Winston. It's a very, very good film. It's quite a strong film. It was a film of its day. And I didn't want to get raped in a greenhouse, which was one of the events that happened in the film. So I joined the army. In retrospect, I should have got raped in the greenhouse. It would have been over a lot quicker. No, seriously. So I joined the army. Served like everybody else does. We come from a military family, but they're military from, you know, the war sort of thing. Nobody volunteered with the exception of my dad, but he was a loose cannon, and maybe we'll talk about him later. But I served. When I got out, I went and did some interesting jobs for interesting people. I set up surveillance teams for government agencies. I worked on counter-terrorism for another government agency dealing with aviation security, aircraft and things like that. Became a key or a subject matter expert in X-ray screening and covert and overt testing so that we know that, the aviation security regime for the UK is safe. Then I gave it all up. I went back out to Iraq and Afghanistan because it wasn't me. And I learned that what was me, unfortunately, was standing with a rifle in the middle of nowhere, fighting because it felt like home. Yeah. And then I got married, as you do sometimes. Some people do, some people don't. Had 3 boys. The oldest one he was born dead. So he has born because of concealed placental abruption. So he was dead. He got 28 minutes of CPR, which I watched. And it was I didn't realise I've got post-traumatic stress. It's good to get that out now. But that was one of the contributing factors because I sat and watched him get CPR. He was over there. My wife couldn't see it because she was all shielded off. And I sat and watched him give 28 minutes of CPR. And I've given CPR. I know what happens when you get past the 3 or 4 minute point. It's, you're on a sliding scale. And I sat and watched it. And one of the nurses came over and said to me, come and take some photographs of Elijah. And I just thought she was being nice. And I'm fortunate in that everybody that dealt with Elijah that day are still friends. So, I've got a massive support network. But they're still friends with him, they're still friends with me. And I didn't realise that when they were asking me to take photos, it wasn't just for me to keep busy. It's because there's a protocol. Because if you have a baby that dies, 9 times out of 10, if you don't take photos, there are no photos. And some people want photos. I don't know how I feel about that, if I'm honest with you. But some people do want photos, don't they? So we started on this crazy journey with Elijah, who you've met. 8 years later, he's alive, kicking, and so loud. So loud.
So him the other day at Jiu-Jitsu, he remembered me, he came, he say hello, and then at some point, I don't know exactly how it went, but then you might be able to say the story better, but he was talking about the Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. And then he was saying he's going to win against me, right? He's going to roll with me. Yeah. He's going to tap me out. And then he said, you need to roll more and train more and then come back later on. And that's very good. Yeah. That's very good, man.
Well, he's got this massive aspiration. So, you remember I got promoted in October. That was a shocking day, I'll tell you.
Right, man. Congratulations. That's good.
Yeah, but I've still got that blue belt. What is it? That fear of
not being good enough.
Yeah, not being an actor. I can't remember. The phrase for it. There's a phrase for it, isn't there? And I went home and showed him the video and everything. And he said, "Why are they whipping you?" Because that's what happens when you get promoted. It's okay. And it's like, I'm like you. I can be very stoic. So if you're going to hit me, I'm not going to show you it hurts, So we got whipped, and it was a big class in Reigate that day. There was the Rico seminar on, and there was like a lot of people in there, and I just went up the line, turned around, and I got whipped by Ian Gary, UFC fighter. Saw him get his purple belt.
You got to whip him too?
I whipped Ian Gary. Now, Ian, if you've seen it, I'm sorry.
He fought last night.
He had an awesome win.
Yeah.
Did you see it? It was absolute, and he did exactly what he said. Yeah. Did you see what he did to the guy before the weigh-in, though?
Yeah.
Left him a pizza. And the guy struggled at the weigh-in. But yeah, he kicked him in the head. It just did work.
Nice, clean.
It was awesome.
Flush down the pipe.
Yeah, it was done. The man is a phenomenon, really, really, and such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's nice.
So Elijah's got this thing about being a blue belt. He wants to be a blue belt because I've got a blue belt. So when he sees a blue belt, as far as Elijah's concerned, that's it. That's the height. You forget about your brown belts and your black belts. Elijah's a blue belt. He wants to be a blue belt. So every time he sees a blue belt, he engages with them and he wants to roll with them, And what is he? He's a 3-stripe white belt at the minute under the kids class. So his next belt, I suppose, would be grey and white belt. Yeah. And he's just got this burning urge to be a white belt. And that was one of the things that, how when you got your blue, you went and got it embroidered. Mm. I decided not to do that. And the reason I didn't do that is because when he gets his blue belt, I'm going to give him my blue belt. Okay. So he's got my blue, it's his belt, but he's got my belt. But he's got this thing about he wants to roll with every blue belt, and he remembered you. And on the way home, he said to me, "Is Charlie good?" I went, "Yes, Charlie's very, very good." He went, "Can I beat him?" I went, "Not now, but when you train." He said, "Right, I've got to train lots." Yeah, I said, "You've got to train lots. You've got to keep putting the work in because we don't get anything for what?" He went, "We get nothing for free. And we don't tap to pressure." I said, "Good boy, we don't tap to pressure." He said, "But when Charlie taps, I have to let go straight away." I went, "Yeah, that's right." Because Mark's got this mantra in the kids' class. What do we do when we tap? We let go. We stop the, and he goes on about being considerate training partner and everything. And it's brilliant. The way he trains the kids is absolutely awesome. But Elijah's got this burning urge to roll with every blue belt, and he remembered you. And he wants to roll with you. So at some point, you're going to have to roll with him. I just warn you,
That's crazy. No, I'm looking forward. It's very good because I know, obviously you started after me, a while after me, and then you start to enjoy it, and then you get attached to the sport, and now the sport is part of your life. Now is your life. Now it's, you see things day to day, and then you relate back to it. And then you obviously brought your kids into it, and then now you see them grow and then grow their skills into the sport again and bring them into this lifestyle. And then it definitely will be a good experience for me to go back and roll with him. I haven't had a chance yet, but definitely I would look forward.
It's interesting because so you're diagnosed with PTS and the world goes mad, because everybody thinks like you're going to start stabbing people in the head with box cutters and, blowing things up, and it's not like that for everybody, And one of the things that the veteran charities all say is get into Jiu-Jitsu, get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And a mate of mine, Chris Duncan Smith, who's head coach at Zion, who's an ADCC champion. Little Chris, I call him, or 6'6" him, built like little Chris. Yeah. Comes from Iraq. That's another story. And I first contacted Sam Sheriff at Reorg, awesome charity, and he steered me in the direction of Andy Roberts. But it's in Aldershot, and I live in a little village in the middle of nowhere where Barnes Wallace was born of World War II fame. And it's just too far. It's just too far. So I contacted Smithers and I said to him, find me a jiu-jitsu gym, closer. And the first person he said was Andy Roberts as well. But then he went, no, it's too far. And he found Mark. And I didn't know then, but lineage in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very, very important, And he said to me, Mark's lineage is perfect. You couldn't ask for better. And of course, I didn't know anything about it. So I said, what's that? And I literally heard him sigh down the phone going, idiot, what am I doing? And he says, you've got to be able to trace, essentially your bloodline back, And he said, you've got Mark, who trains under Martin, who trains under Keith, who's directly training under Rico, and all these people who are just like BJJ gods. And he says, so your lineage is there. He says, so you don't have to worry. And I didn't realise it was so important,
I firstly don't look at the lineage as being this crazy thing, more than knowing that the jiu-jitsu they practice is actually legit. It's not mixed up with any other random crazy stuff. It's you doing the real thing.
Yeah, but also, it's like you do real jiu-jitsu, but there's no crap attached to it.
Exactly.
There's no court rules. I mean, how many gis do you own?
Me personally,
yeah,
I don't own that many because at some point I wanted to do more no-gi, so I stopped. I own more no-gi stuff than gi. Gis, I just have 3.
So you just have 3 gis, right? But all different colours, different styles, yeah? If you're with some of the jiu-jitsu organisations...
Yeah, I know. Politics of the game.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any space for it, if I'm honest with you. Because, I mean, I own more than 3 gis. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? Some of them are very nice. They're all very nice.
They're all very nice. I can tell you that.
But they don't improve your skill set, but, look good, feel good, fight good. There's always been a thing.
Yeah.
And so going back to that, Chris said, here's a good place. And I remember turning up. I spoke to Mark. I emailed him, spoke to him. And he said, have you got any grappling history? And I've got a judo history. My Uncle Terry was like quite high up back in the day in the 70s in the judo world. He had his own school and taught nationally, or coached nationally. And at 4 years old, like, he was shouting at me in Japanese in his dojo. I'm from a council estate, Birmingham, mate. Barely speak English. He shouts at me, and he's screaming at me in Japanese because that's how it was taught. Yeah. There was no English, and I'm like, oh, shit. I don't know what's going on, but I'll practice what you're doing, sort of thing. And I said, I've got some grappling background, but that's it. And I remember standing on that mat that's just over there, and looking in, and I thought to myself, what have you got yourself into? What have you got yourself into? Everybody I know that does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from a veteran perspective has all said the same thing. Get on the mats, it will help with the headspace. But when you look in, it's like your first parachute jump. It's all right, because you don't know what's happening. The second one, bit of an issue, because you've got a history now and you understand what could go wrong, but also you know how it feels. But stepping onto the mats for the first time, it wasn't like when I was a kid, or like in the regimental judo team where they taught us 8 techniques to go and blast through the worlds, because you only need the 8 techniques out of how many are there? And I remember, I'm talking about guys that aren't within the club now anymore, who've left for one reason or another. Big Andy down in the corner with Simon, and then you with the other Alex over there. And it wasn't a clique, but people were drilling with people that they knew. Yeah. And the more you train in Jiu-Jitsu, you understand that, because there's a massive element of trust. Every time we roll, I'm implicitly trusting you to, number one, only murder me a little bit, but number two, respect the tap.
Yeah.
Because the tap is key, isn't it? And you get comfortable with people, and there are people that are always going to be a challenge, and there are people, unfortunately, who are not at your skill set. And if you drill with them, you're going to spend more time promoting them and pushing them than you are learning. And sometimes that's fine. And I've seen you do it, and I've started to do it because I'm a blue belt now, and apparently that means something. It doesn't really. And people drill with people who are competent, but you have to take the new guys under your wing, and you have to steer them in the right direction. You have to keep an eye on them. And that's what happened here. I walked in. The next thing you know, we're doing Della Riva, my first day, and I'm like,
what's going on?
Okay. Yeah. There's Charlie, who spends most of his time, to be fair, upside down, inverted, choking people while he's basically standing on his head. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't do that. I'm probably never going to be able to do that, but I want to try and do that, And time went on and went on and went on, and, it's very, very true. You either stay or you quit in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
You're either in or you're out. There's no sitting on the fence, And the deeper you get into it, the less you understand, I feel. And then you go away, and like I'll train at Reigate. I train at Reigate quite frequently. And Martin's just starts doing some next level Jedi stuff, and you're going, oh my God, he sat down and he's just launched me, and now he's locked up both my feet, and I'm face down and I'm tapping, but I don't know how I got it. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because of my age, but everybody has been really cool about taking me and going, Daz, try this. Daz, try that. Daz, do this. Even, the younger guys here, I'm a nightmare. I'm an absolute nightmare. I've lost weight since we started training. I've lost a small person, or a medium-sized person. Lost to Charlie.
Yeah, you lost my weight. Yeah, entirely.
Yeah. And, but I've maintained the ability to do what I did when I was 172 kilos from side control, for argument's sake, because people taught me how to do it properly.
Yeah.
So I know what it feels like when I get on top of somebody. It's not just, I'm big and heavy, I'm going to squash you. It's actually, there's technique to it. And it's those little subtleties that you don't realise when you sit and watch. The position of the hands, the position of your grips, the position of your feet, not being on your knees, driving everything you've got through that one shoulder into that guy and pinning him, through that and making him feel horrendous. 99.9%.
Leaving out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I ended up here. And it's, and I have to say, in my jiu-jitsu journey, I've now been and visited other clubs and, you know, trained with other people and trained with some absolute amazing people and trained with some complete arseholes as well, you know, who are just there to use you, not to support you, not to coach. And I get that, you know, you get that in every aspect. But here at Dark Arts, everybody cares, you know, and everybody wants to be better, but everybody wants to get everybody else better. And that phrase, you know, we have that group chat, and our group chat, I don't know, sometimes it can be quite intense, our group chat.
Yes.
You know, and that the phrase I've used where, you know, a rising tide raises all ships, it does. Yeah. And that's what happens here. Everybody gets raised, from the new guys all the way through to, you know, the more senior guys. Everybody gets something from it every single time. Never had a bad training session here. Never had a bad instructional. I think we're very, very fortunate. When Mark's away, you know, the delegation to Anthony, to you, to the, you know, Liam, the other guys, it's awesome, and everybody maintains that. We've never had a bad lesson. Then we've got the introduction of Wei and Mark doing catch wrestling, which is just another level of brutality that, you know, I didn't even think was legal. And you look at Wei, and Wei's this smiley little man wearing Hello Kitty leggings, you know, which I've learned is a trap. Okay, if the man turns up and he's wearing, what's his other one? He's got Hello Kitty, and I think he's got unicorns or something. If there's a man in the room wearing leggings like that, you're going to die. Okay, you're going to die, and it's going to be horrendous.
What's the word? Deceiving, right?
Deceiving. I've just been ambushed by a man wearing Hello Kitty spats, you know, who's put his forearm across my face that hard. My head's rotated 180 degrees, and he's bent my ankle the wrong way. And he's a beautiful man. He really is. But there's something about, you know, where we train, the club we're in, that I'm very, very grateful for. When you step onto the mats, all the noise, all the day-to-day nonsense, not nonsense, all my worries get left over there. It stops. All my nonsense stops when I walk in. And, you know, you walk down, you'll fist bump, we'll hug, we'll talk, you know, you and I will chat or whatever with whoever's here. And it's the same for everybody. Mehdi will come in with that big smiling face on, you know. Barrister, who's now an assassin. You know, you know, Patch, you'll come in late because he wants to be a purple belt. Yeah. You know,
he's always late, isn't he?
Always late.
Always late.
Lives closest, always late. You know, Mackenzie.
Does he actually leave?
No, he lives pretty much where I live.
Okay.
On a parallel, but I think he goes that way instead of coming this way.
There's always a joke. We always say we can see him out there,
just the shadow,
watching some judo moves. Waiting for 15 minutes to go by, watching more judo moves.
I don't know if you've noticed that. Every time he comes in, he looks surprised that we've started. Every single time. He's like,
yeah.
Oh, boys. You know,
I'm here.
Well, yeah, we're all, you know, running around or dragging each other or doing another mad catch warm-up that Mark's seen in Wigan and, you know, we're all suffering from. And
which one? The dragging by the neck?
That we used to do that in the military as a casualty evacuation. Yeah. I've done that when people are shooting at you. It's not much fun either then. You know, only there's more swearing involved. Tend not to swear in here so much.
It's a little bit more fun, right? A bit more enjoyable.
A little relaxed. But yeah, there's a lot to be said about everybody here. But I have to say as well, the amount of time you took with me, when I got to, I think I was a lethal 2-stripe white belt at that point. Because you know when you get your first stripe in a white belt, you're basically ready to murder everybody because you've got a white stripe, you know what I mean? And then you get your second one and it's like that. Something's going on here, you know. I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. I've got 2 stripes. And you go to another club and people look at you, you've got 2 stripes or 3 stripes on a white belt. And people are going, oh yeah. And you're going, yeah, I've got no idea what that means, but yeah, look at this. And Jiu-Jitsu is different for everybody. It's the same, but it's different for everybody. It's for everybody, but it's not for everybody. And you and Anthony and Mark, yeah, pretty much you 3 guys, were able to start changing my game for me. You know, because there's things I can't do, things I'm never going to be able to do. You know what I mean? I've got scars and bits of shrapnel and, You know, I'm about as flexible as your average 2x4. You know, and you started to look at my game and weigh as well. Mustn't forget weigh. And say, try doing this, try doing that, try adding this to your game. Not taking anything away from what I could do, but adding more to my skill set.
Yeah.
And I'm the parachute theory. I believe that mines are like parachutes; they only work when they're open. You know. So if somebody says to you, somebody who's been training longer than you says, I'm just thinking about Way. Way turned up the other week in a white belt, and he got like 9 white stripes on it.
What's happened to his blue belt? He just likes to rock in with 9 stripe white belt.
Way should be a purple belt somewhere. You know, Way is a purple belt. It just needs Way to put on a gi. And the only reason Way doesn't like putting on a gi, he says, is because people can choke him with it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's another thing that I didn't really enjoy for a while about gi. Maybe because I didn't understand. I didn't train it. Well, did train gi since was 4 years now. 4 years of gi and just a few months altogether of no gi. But it's just that you like no gi. You want to do no gi. Even if you have a gi on, you still, you know, go for no gi grips and no gi stuff, and you know, and then you get choked out by some random lapel from somebody like. Oh. Yeah.
See, because I'm old, okay, and I can tell you this now, right? Because I'm old, in a gi, life's a lot easier for me.
Okay.
Because I'm slow you down. Yeah. There are people, I've developed a game with, especially with Alex at the minute, Alex F.
Yeah.
I could stop his game completely, and I'm not saying that to be egotistical. I've learned to stop his game by accident, and I know it works because he starts swearing in Portuguese at me. And every chance he gets, we roll together because he wants me to hamper his game so we can stop hampering it. And the other day he was saying, I said to him, what are you saying? And he went, I can't repeat it. He says, it's foul, absolutely foul. Oh, why are you saying it? He says, because I'm so frustrated in a good way. And like Alex is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But in a gi, I can slow you down if I can get hold of you. Now, for you, I have a perennial problem in that, you know, if I can't make that first grip and keep contact, well, then I'm going to do this thing where I just basically, you know, I'm defending for 3.5, 4 minutes. And it happens with Mehdi as well. Like, Mehdi's game has escalated to the point where, you know, he's like Big Charlie. You know, if I can't get hold of him, I can't slow him down. If I can't slow him down, then he's going to pass me. And then I've got to, you know, I spend 3.5 minutes trying to escape. Every now and again, I will get an escape in, you know, but it always leads to a counter and I get passed again. And I don't mind that because I'm rolling with people who are 20 years younger than me. You know what I mean? Far more fit, far more agile. It gets interesting when I get to, like, Patchy. Whereas, like, you know, it doesn't matter how many grips I've got. I know he's got 30 seconds of death of thunder in him. If I can survive that 30 seconds, then I'm probably going to be okay. But
it's interesting.
Probably.
You need to be very careful with Patchy's grips. That's the one thing.
Patchy will throw you from, you know, Patchy and Turtle.
Yeah.
Throw you.
Yeah.
You know. I saw him the other week. There was a judo brown belt coming. And it was like, all right, here we go, sort of thing, you know. And they shook hands, sort of thing, and slapped and bumped. And Patchy let this guy work. And I thought he was about to throw Patchy. And Patchy just countered him and launched him, hit him with a planet that hard. Everybody went, whoo. And then Patchy went slowly into neon belly on him. I went, are you okay?
Secure the neon belly?
You know, he was like, are you okay? I was just like, okay. And Patchy looks like Ram Man from He-Man. I don't know if you remember He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Ram Man was basically a man with no neck. And that's Patchy. Patchy's shoulders start here. Bless him. And he's lost weight as well and put on more muscle, so they're even bigger now. You know, his head's shrunk. He's a lovely man, bless.
You know, that will fire back.
Without shadow of a doubt. But yeah, everybody, you know, everybody's been really good, and I've learnt. So in the gi, yeah, I'll slow things down. No gi for me is different because I can escape more because there's less, you know, to grip, less to grab. I'm really interested in catch. Catch, I don't know, is enigma to me because, like, it's a complete antithesis of jiu-jitsu, isn't it? Can't go onto your back. Go onto your back, it's over, it's pinned, you know. Can't choke. I spend all my time trying to choke people, you know. can neck crank. Can't neck crank in jiu-jitsu. Well, some people...
You can hide it a little.
Yeah, you hide it, Sometimes people hide it well. Do you remember when you cranked my neck accidentally? When you passed me and I was in turtle and I was up...
Oh, but that wasn't actually like a crank. It's a thing that you just go under the shoulder and then you do a gable grip and then you try and sort of...
And I pivoted.
To push.
Yeah, but I pivoted to escape.
Yeah, but you did pivot the wrong way because you were trying to fight. Yeah,
who knew there was a wrong way to escape?
Remember that when we do heel hooks.
We're going that way. No. Do you remember the first seminar we went to? We were doing footlocks. Reigate. Yeah. In a room this big with about 1,000 people in it. And every time I tried to escape, I was rolling into brown belts and things. I was like getting knees in the face from other people.
Interesting. That was fun. That was definitely fun. That was my first seminar in Reigate, I think.
Yeah. That was with Keith, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith was there.
Yeah. It was his seminar and he was teaching footlocks and how to escape them. And it was absolute. And that was the other thing as well. Like, there was 600 people in a room. We're all trying to murder each other and break each other's feet.
Crazy. It was crazy.
And like, I'm getting knees in the face from random people and, it was just like, it was absolutely awesome because there was no ego, no malice, no hate from anybody. And Keith came round and he went, "You all right, big man?" And I went, "I think so." And he went, "It's good this, isn't it?" And I was like, and you were hanging off my foot. I was like, brown belts all over me, rolling into me, people everywhere. Like, it was just absolutely awesome. But you come onto the mats, all the noise stops, and then you train. And all that matters is that time on the mats. And you have to focus on what's happening. It's like moving meditation, isn't it? Because if you don't concentrate, you get hurt. You
get choked out.
Yeah, you don't get hurt. People don't go out to hurt you. We do go out to hurt each other. But you get hurt because you weren't focused.
Yeah.
There's a difference, And the tap is a very, very strong thing, a very, very big thing. And I'm a great believer in tap frequently, tap often. Because I don't care if you've armbarred me. What I want to know is, what did I do wrong? How did I get to that position? And it's interesting how you get an idea of, like, somebody says, "Oh, they do this in the city," or "They do that and that," and you can see sometimes they have an ego with it. And you step onto the mats, and the mats has no allocation for ego, And that guy who works in the city is now getting mauled by a 19-year-old who's failing at college, lives at home with his mum and dad and rides a scooter, And it's a beautiful thing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a beautiful thing. It's complicated and it's hard work. It is like 3D chess or 4D chess with dire consequences if you're not paying attention. But it's really, really good.
That's one way I like to think about it. It's more of a mental game than a physical game. It does have a strong physicality to it, right? A strong violence, if you want to call it that way. But at the same time, it's very, very cerebral, right? Because you need to think and you need to think ahead. And every action has a reaction. And then it might come with greater consequences for it, right? So it's a very, very interesting sport. I really personally enjoy it more than something like a striking sport. Because a striking sport indeed is again, it has similarities between jiu-jitsu and striking, like a boxing and jiu-jitsu, but at the same time, I personally feel that jiu-jitsu involves your mind more, so where boxing becomes more of a reaction to things that happened to you in the past. You get used to things that happen to you.
And also, there's that whole thing about there's always a puncher's chance, isn't there?
Yeah.
In boxing.
Yeah,
You could get hit with a big punch. I mean, I remember a friend of mine died earlier this year, and when we were in the army, his name's Chris. And Chris came from Liverpool, and Chris had an ABA boxer before he joined the army.
Yeah.
And when he got into the army, he discovered that his eyesight wasn't good enough to box. But he got into the army, and the eyesight standards were the same. And it was like, okay. So he's passed now, so I think we're okay saying this. What I did was, because I was caught by one of the coaches, he says, right, teach him the eye chart. So what I got him to do was memorise the eye chart, and it took us like 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
So he memorised the eye chart and learnt the eye chart. Then he went to box, and he was like in the battalion team, and he went to box, and we were fighting, I think it was the Green Howards, and they all came marching, and they got bugles and everything. And Chris was like typical skinhead, you know, from the 70s. He was like Liverpool as Liverpool gets. I don't understand the word he said most of the time. What? That's rich coming from somebody from Birmingham, isn't it, clearly? Covered in tattoos, skinhead tattoos and everything. Wasn't a racist. Was a skinhead, a true skinhead. And if you know true skinheads, they aren't racists. He just looked like a racist. He looked like king of the racists. You know? And this guy from the Green Howards came in, and he stepped through the ring, and he clearly never seen who he was going to fight. And Chris was just stood there, like staring at him. And the guy came through the ring, and he was giving it all, you know, ducking and diving. And they locked eyes, and I saw his hands slowly come down, the guy from the Green Howards. And Chris just looked at him and went like that. And I thought to myself, there's a lesson in psychological warfare. You know, Cowley's just stood there and smiled at this guy. And this guy's started to bottle it already. He had like 3 months of training, because we were dedicated onto the boxing team. That's all we did. He's had 3 months of training. He stepped into the ring and he's lost the fight already. Before he was even taking his dressing robe off and whatever it was, you know. The bell went and this guy didn't want to come out. You know, did not want to come out. Chris walked across the ring, just as you do, like, hit him that hard, the guy's head guard came off. Walked back to his corner, and the referee was like, oh, and the bloke was he was done. Absolutely done. Absolutely done. But that was the first time I realised that anybody could win in a fight, a boxing fight, you know. Some people are natural boxers, some people are very, very good at it, but you can also be really, really lucky. There was another guy, his nickname was Strawman, because he looked like the Strawman from The Wizard of Oz. And he couldn't throw a punch to save his life, but he could take a punch. And he would literally wear you out by you hitting him, you know? And the guys would hit him and hit him and hit him and hit him and hit him. And when they were done, Strawman would start to box you. And Strawman would invariably either win on points or a knockout, because you were done. You'd got nothing left. And Strawman could just take punches all day long, you know? And it was just like, you look at that and you look at what we do, and there is no puncher's chance in jiu-jitsu. Yes, you can be unlucky, but 9 times out of 10 you're unlucky because you've done something wrong. You've set it up wrong, or you weren't defensive enough, or you haven't read what they're doing or countered it quickly enough.
I always used to have this debate where I used to always say, where in striking there is a slightly chance of you getting punched with a random punch that was not even meant. It's so wrong. The technique is wrong. Everything is wrong about it. The position, the leg, everything is wrong, and you get knocked out. Yeah. But there's no such thing as a random
rear naked choke. There's no such thing as a random armbar.
Exactly. There's no such thing as random technique in jiu-jitsu. It might be a random where some guy spazzes out and flips you around and you are on a mount, and then he spazzes out somehow. Obviously, for my level, this is not going to happen when you're brown, black belt onwards. It's not going to be someone spazzing and flipping.
You know, at the start, I mean, there's a couple of new guys here, and it's like, whoa, hold on.
So it's not really that much the chance of something random to happen in jiu-jitsu under the jiu-jitsu rules. It's close to zero, especially in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
I agree, because we have, you know, there's 2 ways of starting here traditionally. We both start standing, which means that somebody's getting thrown, or if you pull, hello Paul, if you're watching, you're going to pull guard straight away, because apparently...
Why is everyone going so mad on this guard pullers? I don't... Is it, if I Iminari roll, is it called I pull guard?
No, you see, guard pullers do not go to Valhalla.
Okay.
All right, let's just put it on the table there, right? Okay. There's nothing worse than watching a jiu-jitsu fight where suddenly everybody sits down. Helio Gracie will be turning in his grave. You know, I am a massive fan of Rickson Gracie. Okay. Massive fan of Rickson Gracie. Massive inspiration. And I've been lucky enough to have a couple of conversations with him online about stuff. Ever see that man pull guard? No. Ever see Royce pull guard? No. So have you seen Paul pull guard?
Yes.
Is it attractive? Is it?
It's interesting because...
Do you know what he said to me the other day? Bless him. He said, "I pull guard, then I try and get out of it." How about you just don't get in there in the first place?
Even with pulling guard, because I don't know. It's my opinion. It might play against yourself as well. I don't know. It's interesting because for me, sometimes it depends. I don't know. I'm not that good of a guy to take people down. I've learned a few things, but pulling guard is not that bad. Come on. We're doing jiu-jitsu. Tap some legs. No?
If you've got the skill set to Imanari into me and take me down with the next guard, something like that, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. But we're talking about people who are walking up to you, grabbing your collars and sitting on the backside.
Yeah.
You know? There's nothing beautiful about that. About 2 months ago, I damaged my knee because Seb pulled me into guard and I was coming down that hard on my left knee. I had to pull it back because it was heading for his groin. And I hit the mat that hard that I felt sick. And I jacked all my tendons up in my knee because Seb pulled guard. Don't pull guard, kids. It's not big. It's
dangerous.
But it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
But I would rather take you down or be taken down simply because I'm more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah, it is fun. It is fun to joke about guard pullers. You don't go to Valhalla, you know, whatnot. Right. At the same time, it depends what you want to do. I don't know.
What I do like is, so like we've got in this club, if you look at it realistically, we've got former Thai boxers, and we've got Cherie, who's a former world champion Thai boxer. It's an amazing achievement. You know,
I'm preparing myself for shots to be fired.
And no. It's just like, if you've seen her clinch work,
yeah,
you know, she takes anybody down in a Thai clinch, which is a legitimate takedown in jiu-jitsu because it, you know, so
when collars and sleeves and all that stuff,
when they're engaged, but you can do it, and she's done it, you know, and I've seen a rag mark around here in no gi as well, you know.
Yeah, no gi is very, very applicable. I really like that clinch work.
Yeah, and so you've got Thai boxers, okay, and then we've got Richard is it Taekwondo?
Richard Clark.
Yeah,
small.
Yeah,
yeah.
He does Taekwondo because
Taekwondo and
Hapkido, is it?
Yeah,
because apparently he was an orphan or something and nobody loved him. I don't know. That's the only reason people do Taekwondo, isn't it?
You know, he wasn't. I can tell you that he wasn't an orphan.
I think he was. I think he just lied to you because he does Taekwondo. It's very jumpy, spinny. So you've got all these guys, right? And then we've got Paul, who's runs his own business, family man, 2 lovely girls, lovely wife, right? And obviously people have been coaching Paul, because the other week I saw Paul guard, and then Ezekiel somebody while they were in his guard.
Yeah, that's the craziest.
You know, and I'm like,
John Danaher would absolutely bleed from his eyeballs if you.
That's not right. But I do respect what he's just done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And he caught 2. I remember we went to Reigate not that long ago, you know, for their Saturday open mats, and I stood and I watched him pull a blue belt at Reigate into his guard, and then Ezekiel him. And the blue belt had never seen anything like this before. And he tapped. And the blue belt looked to me and went, you just got tapped by an Ezekiel.
He should give his blue belt to Paul for that.
I
can honestly say it.
The first
I don't know who that blue belt is. All respect to him. If he ever sees this, you need to give your blue belt to Paul because you've been demoted.
First fight, Paul just slayed people. And then word got round. And they stopped him from pulling guard. They started to take him down, you know, because word got round, you know, and it was quite interesting. But it's just like, so I know we say like guard pullers don't go to Valhalla, and they don't. But at the same point, he's learning.
Yeah.
He's developing a skill set, you know. And we have the room to do that here. We have the freedom to do it. Yeah. There's no. Some jiu-jitsu people are quite insular. They won't allow cross-training. You know, they won't allow you to train outside of your gym. I mean, you've See the stuff on the internet,
Yes,
especially some of the more established organisations. But if you cross train, you're out. Whereas here, like Mark's a sambo coach, he's a catch coach, one of 3 down South East, and the man has no ego.
Yeah,
he invites people in to train us, and he sits and trains with us. And we had Rick come down from Brighton, one of the other catch coaches, and he's away in Japan at the minute. So when he comes to visit, we're going to get some murderous skills.
Oof.
And we're cross training. We've got a bit of sambo, you've got a bit of catch. You went away and came back from Romania with a whole load of stuff nobody had ever seen before, and we were destroying each other on the mats. Sweeps from butterfly guard for light people, for big people. And this, and choking people out all over the place from what you brought in from Romania, and we benefit from that. We really, really do, because Mark has no ego.
Yeah.
And because people here will go, with an open mind. And it's quite empowering, it's quite inspirational. You walk onto the mats, there's no noise, and we're here to learn. I like Mondays. Mondays are parade nights. I do like Mondays, because Mondays is just a fight. It's a fight from, set sparring positions, and then, your rolls. You start with takedowns and you work all the way through to the free rolls. And it's just like, it sets you up for the week. Absolutely sets you up for the week. But Jesus, it's brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
But at the same point, everybody's giving as good as they get. Everybody. There are 16-year-olds coming through the ranks who have got like purple belt time on the mats. They've got 3 stripes and a white belt, But they've got like 6 or 7 years experience behind them. The likes of Fred, the likes of Harry, who not long ago got his blue belt. The likes of Tyler. These kids, one of a better phrase, coming through are going to be absolute murderers, because everybody's spending time with them. It was 2-3 weeks ago, I watched Fred roll with Mehdi. Now, to give you some context, Mehdi's 6'4", 86 kilos of athlete. Yeah. Fred's 16, 5'5", and 50 kilos at best.
Yeah, something 55, 60-ish, 55 maybe realistically.
Yeah, in a gi that's wet.
Yeah.
And Fred fought him. They didn't beat him, but he fought him for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, however long the clock was. 5 minutes, say. He fought him for 5 minutes and didn't stop. Every time he got tapped, he went in again and went in again and went in. That's at 16. At 19, he's going to be a problem for people.
Yeah.
He's going to be a problem for people. It's like Harry. When I first started, Harry was 5'4" or something. He's now 6'2", arms and legs like a tarantula. He's all over the place. And he's going to Oxford. But he's a problem. He was a problem. Ruben and his brother. Problems, and they're coming through as kids. Yeah, which is really, really good to see. The succession, the genealogy is really, really good to see.
It's good to see when they come in and they're young. On the flip side, I look back and I think, I'm getting old. But at the same time, you look at them and you think, they're getting good. They're getting older. They're getting stronger. They're getting bigger. You see them grow, and it's so heartwarming, isn't it? That feeling to look at them and see them grow and evolve. It's just crazy.
It's like, so because I've been injured a lot just recently, I've been able to sit over there and verbally abuse people, do the colour commentary, And I've watched everybody's game and I've watched everybody improve, And you start with the likes of Tyler and Luke,
I haven't seen Luke for a while.
I haven't seen Luke in a while, but you look at those guys and like, Tyler's here on the grind. He's kickboxing and then he's doing jiu-jitsu. Kickboxing and doing jiu-jitsu. And he's improving. He's improving a lot. Luke is just like, Luke's developed into this. When Luke first started, bless him, he didn't know his left from his right. Okay?
Luke now, he's getting some moves. He's getting some moves. Last time I rolled with him, I told him, I don't know what you've done. I don't know what has changed, but do that. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I had that. Do you remember I had that no-gi roll with him for about 5, and we were like all corners of the mat.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. He's just like, he's developing into this jiu-jitsu athlete. You look at Anthony. Anthony's always been a problem. He's purple belt now, isn't he? And you could argue that Anthony's going to be it's a fine line between Anthony and Liam as to who's going to be the first black belt, through the club. And you look at Anthony's so technical, proving that jiu-jitsu works. You don't have to muscle if you know your technique. And it's like, Anthony's just a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And I actively seek out my nightmares to roll with because I need to learn and I need to know. And, you can watch Anthony and he's just like, it's all calm, it's relaxed, it's technical. And he's like Nick, who rolls with his eyes closed. It freaks the life clean out of me. And I can't move Nick. Nick weighs 50 kilos if I'm lucky, and it's like you get hold of Nick and Nick gets grips and you think, okay, this is all right. Why can't I move Nick? Nick's stuck to me and I can't move Nick. I can't get Nick off me, I can't escape from Nick because Nick's smothering me. He weighs 50 kilos. Why am I dying? All these little thoughts in your head. You look at Mehdi's game, and Mehdi's just accelerated. When me and Mehdi first started, very few people would roll with Mehdi because Mehdi was all elbows and knees. I would go home with a bloody nose and a fat lip. Not Mehdi's fault, Mehdi came back from
it was you and Mehdi that you were partnered up for quite a long time. You, Mehdi, and the Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes from time to time, you would have get Alex T.
Yeah.
That was your sort of training partners when you started.
Yeah. And I like Mehdi near me in the face and apologised.
Mehdi broke, I think, some ribs on this side, some ribs on this side. Gave me something on my back since months. I don't know what it is. I thought my lung is punctured. It's gone. I don't know what it is.
The nicest man. He just did not know what his arms and legs were doing.
No,
had no idea. And I remember we were doing Turtle and taking the bat from Turtle, and he kneed me in the head 5 times in the one.
Oh yeah, that still happened.
And I didn't understand because the drill was you're approaching from the side, from the three quarter position. So you're going in like that, like at the hip sort of thing, and he's kneeing me in the head. You shouldn't, and and I'm looking at him going, and he's going, mate, if you don't know what your knees are doing, how am I supposed to know? And and his game is just, he found it. Whatever it was, clicked in, and off it went. For you, it's the same thing as well. When I first started, you were a 2-stripe white belt.
No stripe.
Were you not?
No.
I thought you were a 2-stripe white belt.
No.
Huh?
No stripe.
Was that Alex?
No stripe.
No stripe. And I've watched you go through, and it's like you've never been a physical person in that you don't muscle people. Like you said earlier, there's an element of physically moving people around, but you've always been technical, and it's like you just like there's big Mehdi and little Mehdi. You know what I mean? It's got that point where your no gi game brought on your gi game, and your gi game brought on your no gi game. And I know you have a love for no gi, probably more than you do gi. I never know what to do with my hands. I've got no idea. It's just like. I'm grabbing Charlie.
I think I don't really call it like a love for gi or no gi. When I started with Mark 4 years ago, we did no gi.
Yeah.
When I fell in love with the sport, I fell in love with no gi, with what I did. Gi for me is more. How to put this? It's like judo, right? It's one of them things that is a sport that requires you to wear this. How should I put this? Now it got me thinking. It's a bit of I can't really call it as a legacy, as a respect for the sport. Something I don't know how to put it. I honestly don't know how to put it. I try to think.
It's a tradition, isn't it?
Yeah. Tradition. But it's a bit more than that. It gives you that boost of. Because you're doing this sport that requires you to wear a suit, people back in the time.
You essentially wear this armour.
Exactly, where
you're putting this armour on that other people have worn before, and we can trace our lineage back to, although Daniel Strauss, the Raspberry Ape Cup, says that we should be calling it Brazilian Judo. And I agree with him, it should be Brazilian Judo. But we go back to Kimura
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and those guys, and Kano and those guys.
It's an horrible thing to it, isn't it, when you wear a gi?
Yeah.
And obviously nowadays the sport goes more towards no gi because of, you got Gordon Ryan's and all sorts, UFC and all the other crazy things. But for me, I fell in love with no gi. That was what I started. That was what I liked. And then gi, it just happened to be what we did afterwards and giving up on no gi.
Yeah.
But at the same time, jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu. Depends on where you go and where you train, because no gi has their own moves and grips and stuff that translates into your gi game, where gi doesn't translate into a no gi game that much. But then the principles and the language is equally available.
It's broadly the same, isn't it?
Yeah. You understand distance and, how you bait someone to do a certain thing, underhooks and, certain grips and, wedges and side control mount, all these stuff, they're everywhere, but just little things change in between. But yeah, for me, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's interesting. I'm going to sit down and think about this, how to phrase it properly. Why? I don't dislike gi. It's not like I prefer one more than the other, but it's one of them things that no gi is, it gets me going.
Because I just don't know what to do with my hands. Although,
plus it saves your fingers.
Yeah.
But it blows your knees and...
Yeah, it elbows. It's like that, the last catch class on Friday, that new guy came in. I had a burning urge to fight him because he's my weight and there's nobody in the club he's heavier than me. And there's nobody in the club that's my size, and that's a true accurate representation. It's like when I compete, I have to compete against monsters, absolute monsters. I've got competed 4 times, including the British Army Championships, and first competition won a gold. Woo! Second competition got smashed and mauled by a man who was 35 kilos heavier than me, with 0% body fat. He'd taken all the Mexican supplements, His head was thicker than his head. And we're in the bullpen. I love that phrase, bullpen. And I'm warming up and I've got my headphones on and I'm listening to Black Sabbath and I'm away and it doesn't matter what's happening around me. And this guy stands in front of me, like literally puts himself in front of me. And I stood up and I was taller than him, but he was like that. And he went, and I took my headphones off and I went, "Can I help you, mate?" He went, "Are you Daz?" I went, "Yeah." He says, "Oh, I'm fighting you." And I put my hand out and his hand went round mine twice. And I thought to myself,
the fuck did I get myself into?
And I looked across at Mark, and Mark went like that. So we went out onto the mats, and Mark was coaching. And it was one of those moments where it doesn't matter what you say at this point. He's going to muscle me, and he's going to muscle me, and he's going to muscle me, and he's going to pick me up, and he's going to drop me on my head, and he's going to, and that's fine, And I looked at Mark, and Mark went, "Just go ahead and enjoy it.
Just have fun.
Just have fun." And I don't have a fear of failure. That's something I learned in the military and through my engagement with Jocko and everything else. There's no fear of failure. If I fail, I just get back up again. Was it Miyota says, 4-7, get up 8. So when we went out and slapped, and his hand didn't move when I slapped him, he was just like Don. He was like that scene from Rocky 3, was it? Where I was, if he dies, he dies. He was like, "Oh Christ, Jesus!" And I took a grip, and my intention was to go for an ogoshi and step in and drop him on, hit him with a planet, and let him know who was in charge. And I took a grip, and he just went like that. And I thought to myself, "Here we go," And there was a whole lot of pushing and pulling. And we sort of went down I got a sweep, but as I swept him, he fell on me. So he sort of like pancaked me. And it took me, and I know this is true because Mark told me, it took me 3 minutes and 25 seconds to get from on my face into half guard. And I managed to start to get a frame in, and he went for a Kimura. And I grabbed my belt. And I thought, right, I've got my belt tight, I'm doing all the right things, it's okay. He put his hand on my hand and squeezed that hard, my fingers went and came off the bone, and well, that's yours now. So I just don't know how long this is going to be. To his credit, he didn't just launch it on, because he knew how strong he was. He just took it there, and I tapped at the point where I couldn't rescue it. I couldn't rescue it. And I tapped, and I stood up, and he hugged me. And when he hugged me, and this time I was 112 kilos. When he hugged me, he just picked me up and walked off the mat with me in a bear hug, talking to me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I managed in that comp I met another guy called Anthony Young, who's become a really good friend. Recently got married to a lovely lady called Orla. And I fought him for third place. And he'd been sandbagging. Anthony, if you're watching this, you've been sandbagging me. He predominantly trains no-gi. And, no-gi has a grading system, but they don't grade the way we grade, do they? Or as frequently as we grade. He's quite complex. And he'd been like a 4-stripe white belt for like 9 years, sort of thing. I know Anthony. I did some research. And he was so technical. It was absolutely awesome. We had a stand-up grip fight for 2.5 minutes. Yeah. Nobody tried to, throw each other. We were just like breaking grips, taking grips. And we went to the ground, and he got me in a bow and arrow, and I was trying to fight the bow and arrow. He got me, I tapped, and it was really, really good. But I managed to fight my way to fourth in that tournament. I didn't realise up until the guys were taking photos. So when they were taking photos on the podium, they called me up and said, come up, take a photo. I was 15 years older than the youngest, the next guy. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And what I've discovered is that old people don't want to fight.
Mm.
When I fight now, be it at the British Army Championships or be it, at Brighton, which is coming up in August, I've got to go and fight with 35-year-olds because people my age don't want to fight. And it's interesting, isn't it? It means that there must be as many, there must be more than me at my age training. But they're all hobbyists, doing it just to do that. And I'm not saying I'm not a hobbyist. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an athlete, clearly. Even though I am wearing trainers today. But there are people doing it because they enjoy it, and that's all they want to do. But it makes me wonder, because I do it and I want to know if I'm better. So there's two ways of finding out if I'm getting better, because it's difficult to know if you're better here in the club, because everybody has good days, everybody has bad days, and we all learn each other's games. And I can know your game, but I can't stop your game. I can know Mehdi's game, but I can't stop his game. But when I fight somebody I've never met before, never trained with before, I think that's a real test of where I am. And it's not, can I beat them? It's, can I do better than last time? Yeah. And I suppose part of that is ego, because we're all male and we're all, fragile male egos. And do I want to get beaten in front of 3,000 people? I don't care. What I want to know is, did I do better than last time? Yeah. Last time I fought, Editor from Woking.
Yeah.
She was there, and she went, "You did really well." I said, "Thank you." No, I came fourth. You don't get prizes for fourth. She says, "You did really well." I said, "Thank you," because I knew I'd done better than before. And it's that whole: do you compete? Do you not compete? What have you got to lose? I've seen you compete. Saw Liam compete. I saw Liam B compete. Mehdi. Who else has fought? Saw Harry compete. Harry got dicked over at the last competition in Brighton. He was supposed to be in the youth category, wasn't he? And they ended up putting him in with the adults.
Oh, yeah. I remember,
Harry ended up fighting a 35-year-old white belt with 4 stripes who've been doing jiu-jitsu for, another Anthony, 9 years. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's crazy.
Who got his blue belt on the podium.
It's great.
And it's just like, and Harry fought as good as he could. He did his best thing.
When I had my comp, because I'm young and my weight is extremely competitive. Extremely. Just to look afterwards that the people that were in my brackets, in my weight category, my age, fighting that day, they were white belts, all of them.
Allegedly.
Yeah. But they were fighting MMA. They were fighting in MMA, and they were like some of them, they had their pro debut. Some of them, they had some amateur fights. So I'm thinking, for all these guys, they came here like white belts, some of them no stripes, or some of them took 3 stripes, and they fight in the cage, in MMA. The guy that won had his, I don't know, I think he 3-4 fights already won in MMA. And I'm thinking, how is that even the thing?
It's interesting because there's no...
Like, I'm not just saying...
No, but it's...
I'm not finding an excuse for the fact that I lost. I lost. I lose.
You lost, but you fought well. But you were fighting somebody who had through no fault of your own, a superior skill set, because he's not just training in jiu-jitsu. You know, he's training in MMA. And that shows to me, that talks about the dichotomy of what we do, you know. Because on one hand, you've got, like, we'll talk about Elijah Bear.
Yeah.
So he's got cerebral palsy, he's got epilepsy, he's got autism, he's got ADHD, he's got a traumatic brain injury. He's, on a good day, he can walk, but he's incredibly wobbly. On a bad day, he's in a wheelchair, okay? He has to wear a boot on his foot constantly, day and night, to keep his foot level. When he goes to competition, and he's fought in competition, he's fought into club and he's fought at Croydon, they treat him like royalty. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu family treat him like royalty. We wheeled him in for the Nova competition, and shout out to Colin, who runs Nova. Beautiful man. He says, right, get him a fight. We'll get him a fight. He says, don't worry about it, we'll get him a fight. And he got a kid from his own academy to fight him. He was 3 or 4 years old, and made Bear work. Because Bear's, even though he's disabled, he's not stupid, and he knows that everything has to be earned. We wheeled him in, and people were, you know, you've seen his wheelchair, he's got Captain America shields on it, he's got his patches all over it, and we wheeled him in, and people were fist bumping him and slapping him and talking to him, and we got him out on the mat, and he fought, and he had his competition, he fight, and he won by a rear naked choke, bless him, and he had his podium moment, and people treated him like royalty, you know. And then, so you got that end of the spectrum, and then you've got the other end of the spectrum where people are taking it a little bit too seriously for no reason. You've got people like you who are having to fight people who've got 9 MMA fights, you know, who may or may not be on all the Mexican supplements, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you've got people like me who rolling with a white beard are up for a bit of a rock. I've got half a left ear. If you want some, we can have some. But that's it, you know, I'm going to go home then and, you know, live in Epsom salts for 24 hours afterwards. And it always baffles me how you're not going to make a living out of this. Well, there's very few people make a living out of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know, you got your Daniel Strauss's, your Elizabeth Clays, you know, your Mike Machado's, all those guys, you know. Very few people are going to, and if you're going to make a living out of it, you're not going to make a living out of gi. It's going to be no gi, you know. So why aren't you entering just at that level, you know?
For me, it's just a very interesting thing that happens in Jiu-Jitsu, especially white to purple. I think white to purple is a bit of a confusing situation, because after brown to black is, you know, people get mixed up with all sorts of crazy things, and they've been doing it for God knows how many years. But from white to purple, people take it a bit too weirdly, where they, as an example, the UFC fighter, what's his name? Khamzat Chimaev.
Yeah.
He was a blue belt. Recently, blue belt, and then he got his purple belt. Again, recently, I think last year, at the end of last year. Imagine that guy showing up.
Open mat
on
Saturday.
At the comp. Jiu-Jitsu comp.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like, I'm a blue belt, no stripes.
At Brighton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casually.
I saw a picture of Khabib in a white belt.
Yeah. How's that a thing? I don't understand. I understand, yeah, of course, it's a different sport, right? Because he was doing Sambo as an example. Khabib he was doing Sambo. Obviously, Sambo is whatever. They don't really have the belt system, aren't they? Because they red and blue, so it's not really wow on a belt. They know how long they've been doing it, but I don't know exactly how they promote people, or if
I think it's by how many times you can drop somebody on the head. With
probably it's not even that. It's probably like, how long you've been doing it for. Oh, good for you. That's it.
Good effort. Whatever it is in Russian.
Congratulations. Well, and then he comes to a jiu-jitsu. He doesn't know jiu-jitsu. Like, there's things in jiu-jitsu that we do that they don't do. But it's not like he's gonna be unplug the sambo and plug my jiu-jitsu mind, and I'm just doing that.
No. I'm only a white belt.
Yeah,
blue belt.
That's not how it is.
No.
At the same time, you can use it as an excuse when you fight against someone like that and think, he's doing something else, and obviously he's gonna win because of that.
Yeah.
And then now you get it into your mind, and then you always find excuses for it, right? But then at the same time, I don't see it to be right.
It's not right, but as Jocko says, good.
Yeah, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it is what it is, yeah.
Some good will come out of it. You just got to find it.
You just have to.
You know?
Looking back at my fight as an example, the guy was an amateur MMA fighter, and obviously if he wants to be a pro, he needs to step his game up, because although he might train more than I am, obviously he should, but I was not impressed. I did things wrong. Looking back at it, and I know what I did wrong, and I know I could have won the fight. But yeah, like you said, it's all, you need to get something good at it.
But that was it. You see, that again, the fight went to time, didn't it?
The fight ended up with me tapping at the last 2 seconds.
Right. Yeah, so because I remember it being a full-on.
Yeah, I had
round.
It was a full round. It went to the end. We got flipped each other. I got myself. I know I took him down. I didn't get points and stuff like that. You know, point system and things. But you can see the way I went into the fight. I didn't go there for points. I went there to win.
Yeah.
So points for me is I don't go for points. If I go for Olympics, I go for points. If I go for Brighton Open, I go for a tap. That's how it is. If it's not a tap, there's no win.
Well, yeah, and there's that whole
for me.
There's that whole subculture now, isn't there, of sub-only fights, and I personally think that's the way it is. You know, that's the way it should be, because I remember Alex fighting in, I think it was in Brighton, and
which one?
Alex F. Yeah, and he mounted the guy from the Gracie gym and pancaked him, and Alex stayed on him for the best part of that fight and won. And it wasn't because Alex wasn't doing the right, had nothing else to give, because we both know Alex is a very, very good fighter. But the guy had no answer, and every time he tried to escape, Alex just held him in again. And the guy was content to sit there and wait it out and try and wait for a sweep, or try and wait for Alex to make a mistake. And that's not what it's about. You put somebody in crossface side control and hold them there all day. You've got to move at some point. You've got to escalate this thing, because that's what it's about, isn't it?
At least if you go to comp, that's what the comp is about. Yeah. At least in my opinion. You go to win.
Do you remember we're training here, and we've got a comp coming up. We start doing comp rounds, and you do a Shark Tank, and we're not fighting for points here. You get the submission, or you just stay fighting until you get the submission. And that's what it is, and that proved its worth when Mehdi, bless him, had his last fight in Brighton, where he escaped 9 arm bars. 9. And afterwards the bloke says, arm bars are quite my thing. And Mehdi was like, really? And Mehdi's a big, strong, fit guy who's got a triathlete background. And Mehdi escaped 9 arm bars and submitted the guy at the end, and he was done. He was absolutely done. But he kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And he defeated this guy mentally and physically. And it proves the worth of the training of you fight to the submission, not for the points, Some
people choose to play that game because obviously you have that spectrum where you can. It's not a big fault, but, there's...
That's like having a rifle and fixing a bayonet and never going into the trench. It's what it's there to do.
Yeah, but again, I had this situation with Patchy recently where we roll and things happened and we did our thing, and then we end up in this position where he just hold me down for the rest of the round.
Probably on a rest.
Yeah, but it worked.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, he came to me. He said, "I'm sorry," you know. And I said, "Don't be." I lost the round. In my eyes, I lost the round. I couldn't come out.
Yeah.
This your thing. It's not like you just did this and lay on top of me with all your weight, and I'm just incapable of sweeping you, because that was not the case. And I said to him, we both know that was not the case. You had your grips, you had your things in place, you know, your stickiness was there, your judo things going on. I couldn't take you off. You win. If that would be a comp, I'd lost.
Yeah.
I got
That's
paid.
right.
Probably if that would be a comp, at some point the guy would come and tell you to come on, do some work.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, again, the way I look at it, I lost.
Since the last 6 months, with certain people, I've started to shit talk an awful lot when we're rolling. An awful lot. And when I'm rolling with Mehdi, I'll say, we've got 30 seconds, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And Elijah does it now, and it's terrible. He'll roll with the kids and he'll pin them. He's got this amazing, but he's got like half a paper cutter, Elijah. So he'll get the forearm across the throat and then he'll just pin them. And he'll say to them, what are you going to do? What are you going to... And it's so demoralising when you're 8 years old being pinned by these disabled kids. And I said to Mehdi, what are you going to do? You've got 30 seconds. You can see the look on his face, his nostrils flare. And I've looked at the clock and I'm, Mehdi, we've got 20 seconds. What are you going to do? And I'm fighting to survive. I'm just surviving. Yeah. So I've got nowhere else to go. Yeah. You know, because we've got no points. I've got no... And there's a couple of times like the time has gone and he's finished the move and I've let him finish the move rather than go good roll sort of thing or stop, because he's that frustrated with me that if he doesn't, the next person's going to get murdered. Yeah. You know, and I've done it with you as well, where we've been rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, and you've gone to tap me and the time has gone, because sometimes we run short range, don't we? To get more in. And the look on your face is like... It
is what it is.
It is what it is.
I don't mind that. For me, I think a bit differently. I don't think that I didn't get the tap. I didn't get to tap this person. I think, what did I do wrong that it took me so long to get to the tap? Yeah.
See, now I'm a...
And then again, going back to the thing with people holding you down and, you know, pinning you down, is, again, I can't read people's minds, but are you resting or are you on purpose keeping me down to prove that your grips are good, to improve that position and that control? Because the control is one thing, again, it's not doing something wrong, but to keep someone down for a long period of time in that position is a technique. You need something there. There's not randomness.
I've never rested. Have you rested? I've never rested.
No.
I've never had anybody rest on me that I know to. When you roll with like brown belts and black belts,
they're not going to rest.
They don't rest, but they do give you time to work.
Yeah.
You know, so they will, like, when you roll with Rich, shout to Rich Briggs, you roll...
It doesn't give you time to... It gives you time. It gives you time to do something.
He will lead you down the path where you think... And he said, this is where I'm very cynical. Because if I get grips on Patchy, I automatically go, oh, this ain't going to go well, because I've got older you, which means you can get older than me. And with Rich, it's like... you're rolling with him, and it's the same as with the boss as well. The boss does it. You get to the point where you think, I should be all right here, but I know I'm not. But I know I'm not, you know. And then the sweep or the escape happens, or you get reversed or whatever it is. And it's like, you know, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go again. You know, I'm now fighting for my life, and I'm on my back, or I'm on my side, or he's on my back.
You will see this pattern that repeats itself from higher belts, is that no matter if they're not in a dominant position or in position of control, they will not stay still. There's no such thing as stay still. There's no such thing as flat back on the mats. They understand that, and that is their habit of doing things. And when you roll with Rich, it's so obvious. He's like, I think rolling with people, Rich, Nick, Mark, they're my favorite people to roll with. It's just so good. It's so technical, and Rich is, again, because Mark and Nick, like, Mark is not as that much smaller than me, right? But again, there's that physicality with Mark as well. With Nick, it's extremely technical. Everything is extremely technical. Where with Rich, explosiveness, power, it's never staying still.
I went to White Belt Fury.
Due to some technical issues, this episode comes to a sharp ending. But please let us know in the comments if you would like to see the part 2. And until then, I see you on to the next episode.